We're the same. I'm too stubborn to sell at a loss. I'll wait forever. And one of the mistakes I made, and I learned this from Randy Dick, I love this quote, is you don't sell too soon in the recovery. So when 2016 rolled around and finally my dogs that I had paid $160 for, they went to $120, for example, worst deal I ever did in Abbotsford, ugly building, wasn't a super suite or anything. But as soon as I could make 20 grand on it, I said, finally, let's dump this sucker. I'm so tired of all the drama that goes with this one. But if I just would have hung in there and let that recovery get another year momentum, that person picked up all my equity from like the 8-year hold.
Derek Peever, Mr. SuperSuite himself. Welcome to the show, my friend. How's it going, Derek?
Excellent, Russ. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Derek, I know we're doing this on computer and we're trying to get the technology all sorted out. Honest to goodness, if I got onto the roof of my house and looked out over the Pitt River, I could you wave from your place, we could probably see each other, couldn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
How long has it been since you moved out to the ranch there, my friend?
It has been since December 2018.
2018. Wow, that's been quite a while.
Yeah. It's been a lot of mowing ever since.
Yeah, how much land do you have, brother?
It's 13.68 acres.
Wow. Is it all cleared, or is there a lot of brush or bush, or what's going on there?
Well, no, I actually call the majority of the property a wildlife corridor, so that saves me from doing any maintenance whatsoever.
Just let it go natural, right?
That's right.
Nice.
It belongs to the wildlife. And but our inside yard that I have to maintain is about 5 acres, so that keeps you busy.
Nice. Well, I'll tell you what, gang, Derek and I have just reconnected again after a couple years, and this wonderful thing about a global pandemic, and Derek and I have reconnected again over some breakfasts and multiple Zoom conversations, and it was high time that we recorded another podcast again, because I was just going back through my notes, Derek. It was episode 16 on the podcast, and that was probably recorded in one of your SuperSuites, probably in 2018, maybe 2019. I think it's 2018.
Yeah, Hudson's Loft. I think it was 511.
Do you still own it?
No, we sold those actually. Yeah, we owned them from, I believe, 2010 to 2015 or so.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to encourage everybody to do. Normally on a podcast, when you're having a conversation with somebody, they tell you about their backstory and all this kind of stuff. But we told that story. Derek's backstory is in great detail and depth on episode 16 and 17, I believe. So if you go back the podcast or YouTube channel, you will find Derek's backstory. But what I'm most interested in, Derek, is what have you been up to lately? Because I saw this wonderful presentation of a big pivot you're doing. So why don't you fill in the gaps for everybody from, say, 2018 to now, what you've been doing?
Sure. And I realize I misspoke with the dates on Hudson's Loft. I think it was actually 2015 to 2020 or something like that. But
got it.
The years are just clicking by. So forgive me for that. But so basically, after we spread across Canada, the last stuff that we were buying in Canada was probably, I would say, a couple years ago, pre-sale. So we're just getting possession of a few of the last ones that we bought, kind of right after the 2020 COVID issues. Correct me on these years if I get them wrong. But
hey, Derek, some days I don't know what day it is, so you get a hard pass.
Awesome. But yeah, no, we haven't been buying essentially in quite a while. It's like that quote, what the wise man does in the beginning, the fool does in the end. So, once it got really overheated, that's when we're shying away, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. So we're very cautious with that, with the way we buy with pre-sales. But we've been mainly a seller, over the last couple of years. So we're always purging, right? And when I hear things like condos are bidding 100,000 over asking in Abbotsford, and I've never seen that in my life, then I'm purging everything I can possibly purge to feed that market, because the market's there to serve you, not to command you, right? So it's like, if the fish are all biting, then I'm gonna feed that. And that's one of the things I really like about condos and townhouses, is that you can be quite nimble when you get word on the street of that market demand, that herd of buyers that's lost out on 4, 5, 6 deals, and they're just crazy bidding war going on. That's when we were selling a lot of BC stuff, and that's when I started to look abroad where the next opportunities are. I do like Calgary and Edmonton, but it's been a tough go out there for a long time, so I don't have a big appetite out there right now. And that's when, through certain coincidences and whatnot, which we can get into if you want, led me to Austin, Texas. I started looking at the few big markets in the States, like the Floridas or the Nashvilles or the Boise's, these growth areas, and ultimately landed on Austin, Texas area. And the whole corridor, really, from Dallas, Fort Worth down to San Antonio, with Austin in the middle, kind of reminds me of the Cal-Redmonton corridor, just a really booming GDP in that whole area.
Now, so you were reading the tea leaves out in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, and being an astute investor of somebody who's, how long have you been doing this? When did you buy your first place again?
So I like to say my light bulb got turned on December 2005. Yep. By Kelly Fry and Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book. And then I got right at it, and we bought our first condo in March 2006. Okay. In Agassiz, BC for $65,000.
So 15, 16 plus years, coming on to 2 decades here very shortly. Right. Okay, so you were kind of seeing the way the economic fundamentals were shaping up, and the price points and all these kind of things. And your business model of furnished executive corporate rentals, probably your margins were starting to shrink on that you just said, you know what, I can't just keep going down that path. And you had a good portion of your portfolio out in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes. Yeah. The prices we're just going up too fast, too much, too fast. And that's, not when we're trying to buy. Yeah. So we want to be buying when we're the only ones out there. And yeah.
And then so you took a look and said, you know what, I've got big giant goals. I got a goal of a $1 billion goal that you want to accomplish. And it's totally okay if your chosen market up to this point, if it doesn't make sense anymore. I think you used the analogy of fishing. If the fish were no longer in the pond, time to go to another pond that has more fish in it that are hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really just, the affordability. Like when I looked at an active deal in Austin on what I could buy versus square footage and quality of construction, and the fact that a townhouse here, they're going to add on GST and transfer tax and all this stuff, whereas in Texas there's none of that, and the rents, the yields are just so much better. And when I compare Austin, which is like a global city, to the Fraser Valley, which is also, outside of Vancouver, highly desirable global city, if you will, but I don't think quite nothing near the growth potential of the Austin area. Yep. So this made a lot of sense to me. And I've looked across the line several times over the years, but never really had that motivation, and when I went and looked at Washington and Bellevue and areas outside of Seattle, and then I looked at what we could buy in the Fraser Valley and Abbotsford and Surrey, I just thought, it makes no sense to purchase down there at that time. But now it's reversed, where, they thought they were crazy prices when their median price hit $650,000 US. But to me, I'm kind of with that mentality of people from the Bay Area or Vancouver area or, Los Angeles or New York, where it still looks very cheap to them.
Right. Okay. So you are now divesting of your lower mainland British Columbia, Fraser Valley portfolio. And you did quite well, haven't you, on some of your properties? I think you shared a few of the numbers. You bought in when prices were lower and it made sense, and you sold at a, maybe just before the peak, I would imagine. I think the absolute peak of late was just like February of this year, but you were divesting over the last couple of years, were you not?
Yeah, it's good to spend a little minute on this actually, because it's interesting. You know, when I first started buying 2006, it was a rising market. You know, we were able to refinance, recycle our down payment into the next deals, rent those out, keep the ball rolling. But then from about 2008 for a long time, like till 2016, I would say, I was what they call, you know, real estate and equity rich, but cash broke. And, you know, just in the trenches, you know, covering vacancies, covering, you know, a tenant that doesn't pay or a renovation that you didn't expect, or wondering if you can fill your gas tank. Meanwhile, you own, you know, 50 plus properties. And there was zero appreciation in the Fraser Valley east of 200th Street for the entire period. There was actually a little mini boom that went to 200th Street and then stopped. And then the market cooled again in like 2012. And I was heartbroken because I thought, oh, finally the ripple effect is going to make it to where all my properties are. And I remember I met with, you know, a real estate mentor of mine, Diane Dells from Quantum Properties. And she just reassured me, like, you know, Abbotsford is a growth area, you know, just hang in there, because it was so disheartening, you know. But then right around 2016, 17, that's when I like to say that the wave washed over me. And all of a sudden properties are jumping 50 grand, 100 grand. And, you know, I positioned myself for that like over 10 years. It wasn't like, okay, the market's heating up in Abbotsford and I'm going to get a bunch of properties and capitalize on this. It was like I was just sitting there when the wave kind of washed over me. So that's when I didn't sell anything. You know, I tried to sell things and wouldn't get the dollar I wanted, so we always rented them. I did not exhale in the portfolio for like stubbornly for like almost 10 years, you know, just tight, doing it full time since 2009, basically just making the wage of a property manager. And then, you know, you kind of know what's happened since 2016, 17. It really took off, and then COVID cooled it off, created a buying opportunity. I kind of went full in again, seeing that. And then since the market went crazy after COVID, purged, you know, a lot.
Wow. Hang on a sec. Derek. Woo-wee, brother.
Here it is.
Woo, it's getting hot in here, brother. And I know, you know what's coming next? It's bomb time. So holy moly, there's a lot to unpack there. Okay. So number one, you've been doing it full time for a long time, and you tightened the belt. You did whatever it took to make this work, to make the portfolio work. You were in the market when things were really, really tight and really no growth whatsoever. You had some good coaching, some good mentors on your side that said, keep in it, keep going, keep looking. And then when the time was right, you went crazy, right? You went, how many properties did you acquire in that acquisition phase during that time, Derek, to your best estimation?
You know, as soon as I'm sitting here on my computer, I can actually give you from my sold properties log.
Yeah. So gang, just while he's looking that up, you know that you've transacted lots of properties when you don't know it off the top of your head.
So here's the answer. I've sold 85 properties.
In the last two years?
In my whole career.
In your whole career?
The first one I sold was 2009. I sold just a handful up to 2016, and then boom, 17 sold, 10 or so, 18 was probably 15, 20, 19, and so on.
And then, so what you've done now, so obviously you still own some properties in the Fraser Valley. You own, your jewels in the crown there still, do you not? How many places are you hanging on to in the Fraser Valley still?
I got a nice round number right now, and it's accurate for a change. 150 titles right now, including Canada and US. We've got just 4 titles in the US so far.
150, nice round number.
150 is the true number. Yeah, I just counted them. And we also have a few sublet properties.
Yep.
That from years back, I've rented them long term, furnished them, and re-rented them. So those are not in that number.
Okay. So essentially, let's call it 145 and change are still in Canada that you own either a portion of, a piece of, or fully yourself, or a part with a joint venture partner, or all the above, right?
Right.
Okay. Lower Mainland, how many do you still have out in the Lower Mainland type of thing? Is that the bulk of that number?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's easier for me to think what's outside of the province, and that's, maybe 20 or so in Alberta, 6 in Manitoba and Winnipeg, 3 in Ottawa because we sold one. And I think that's it for Canada. So the rest are here.
So let's call that 30 and change. So 115 places in the Lower Mainland. But it's
mainly Abbotsford, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're based. So probably 3/4 of the BC stuff is Abbotsford.
Yeah. But so let's be really clear, is when you say you're divesting, you didn't just sell everything off, but if you sold 80 some places over the course of, the last decade, out of 100 and some, that's a huge portion of your portfolio that you have divested.
And it kind of made me sad because I wanted to just accrue and keep everything, but I learned that you need to exhale, and especially when it is harvest time, because I think in seasons. So, right now we kind of gone into summer in a lot of these markets where the noxious bugs and the weeds are trying to take the garden, and you're fighting it. But at harvest time, you have to purge, and then you go into these slower periods of recession or soft rental markets with your best, like you say, jewel in the crown properties. You can withstand the storm the best then.
Yeah. Now here's something really refreshing, gang, and this is something that I was very slow to learn. I should have probably been talking to Derek a little bit more over the years. Is, gang, you don't have to hold a property forever. You can build a portfolio. Let's just use the number 150. Let's say you built 150 property. You can sell out 10, add 10 in, and you have a portfolio of 150. Hold 150 properties forever, right? You don't have to hold the one on 272, First Avenue. You don't have to hold that property forever, but hold a portfolio forever. And properties are coming in, properties are going out, and you're always optimizing your asset mix. Would that be a good thing? Something that you're subscribed to, Derek?
100%. Yeah. An old Rain member, John Waite, I think his name was. I don't know if you remember him. He used to drive the Rolls Royces and stuff.
Yep.
He's from Abbotsford. I reached out to him and said, hey, could I take you out for breakfast? Had me over to his home and showed me this master analyzer spreadsheet that he designed. Really smart guy who designed cabinet software, was his main business, and did well, and then took that money from that and invested in real estate. And are you there, Russ?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Your picture just disappeared on me. Sorry.
Right here, brother.
But this master analyzer spreadsheet, what it does is you put every property detail, mortgage number, current interest rate, variable prime, what the taxes are, every detail to do with the property is in this one master spreadsheet, and rank the properties on cap rate. So then your bottom 5, you're always looking to basically purge, it's like a portfolio management system.
Yeah, actually, you just mentioned the name. I jotted down John Waite. I haven't had a chance to talk to John for a while. I think he had a run of some unfortunate properties up in Fort McMurray over a little while ago. So he's definitely due for a check-in. And I'm very familiar with what you said. And here's the thing is, I wish I would have listened maybe when he shared that with me. I was always of this prescribed to buy this property, hang on to it forever, even though it's a pile of crap, right? It was just a garbage property, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to do it.
We're the same. I'm too stubborn to sell at a loss. I'll wait forever. And one of the mistakes I made, and I learned this from Randy Dick, I love this quote, is you don't sell too soon in the recovery. So when 2016 rolled around and finally my dogs that I had paid $160 for, they went to $120, for example, worst deal I ever did in Abbotsford, ugly building, wasn't a super suite or anything. But as soon as I could make 20 grand on it, I said, finally, let's dump this sucker. I'm so tired of all the drama that goes with this one. But if I just would have hung in there and let that recovery get another year momentum, that person picked up all my equity from like the 8-year hold in a year. But, I do like leaving something on the table for somebody else, right? That's Don, I think, always says that.
Yeah. But there is also something to be considered is sometimes no matter how long you wait, certain areas will not transition. And I know that. Yeah, exactly. I know that for a fact is I'm sitting there going, I'm into some for 20 years. And I keep saying, this is the year of the transition. And what happens sometimes is other areas transition and they push the riffraff out of those, and the riffraff congregates into the areas that aren't going to transition.
Maple Ridge.
Yeah, exactly. So
I decided strategically, we're pulling out of Maple Ridge because I had a 10-year hold of downtown properties that were supposed to be in the BIA, the business improvement area.
Yeah. Now, gang, here's if you're listening and watching this listening on podcast or watching on YouTube, right? So you're getting some experience here. You're getting some wisdom from people between Derek and I. We are close to 40 years experience between the two of us. We have the battle wounds, we have the scars, we have everything to prove it. And you're getting an education on what it takes to survive long-term in this business because it's not easy. And I'm often a little, not disappointed. I'm often new investors within the last 5 years, last 2.5 years specifically. A new investor that's just getting into the game recently almost had it was spoiled to a point that they think what they went through in the last 2 years is a normal real estate market. That's not even remotely normal. That is extremely abnormal. That what you went through. And I have the big challenge that investors have is they have unrealistic expectations that have been built over the last 2 years. Would that be something you'd agree to, Derek?
Yeah, it's been a crazy few years, that's for sure. Like I feel like I've been through, 3 or 4 distinct like turn ups and turn downs. Just to what extent, like 2008 was a huge turn down. Biggest one. And then 2010 was like a little mini boom recovery. And it's different too. Like I also wanted to talk about I like how in some ways Alberta is kind of counter cyclical to the Fraser Valley a lot of the time. Like I remember back in the day, it was booming in Calgary. You couldn't buy more than one unit in a building, but the Fraser Valley was ice cold, and then it switched. And so it's kind of good if you have a portfolio in both areas that, if your BCs can carry your Alberta vacancies through the downtimes, and then maybe, hopefully, Alberta will come do the same in return. It should.
Yep. Now, okay, so thank you. I know that was, thank you for the update on what you've been doing since then. That's a fantastic look over the past 5-6 years. And now I'm going to pivot the conversation into going down 2 avenues, Derek. Avenue number 1 is you have an extremely proprietary and unique business model on what you do with your SuperSuites model. I want to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to pivot into what you're doing down in Texas and some of the potential opportunities that are down there. Does that sound like a good plan?
Sounds great.
Okay, so describe your business model, Derek, in as quick as you can. So, there's long-term rentals. Everybody's familiar with long-term rentals, and everybody's familiar with short-term rental, Airbnbs kind of thing. You're kind of in the middle, are you not?
Right. So what we do at SuperSuites is we help people that have had flood, fire, maybe a tree fell on their home's temporarily unlivable, and the insurance companies are going to cover their rent while they stay in a SuperSuite for a minimum of 1 month. But our average tenancy is to like a mom and dad, 2 kids and a little dog who went away for a week. Their dishwasher flooded their house, or maybe they live in a condo and they were affected by another person above. And, they're going to be there for an average of 68 nights. That's the corporate housing average stay. And so I like to refer to that versus Airbnb, which is like 4.8 to 5.3 nights average stay. So it's quite a different animal. A lot of our tenants stay over a year.
Okay, so what you do, your business model is you go in, you identify essentially new construction condos and townhomes, right? You kind of buy I think you coined the term before, the end of the roll, if you will, the last few units, either the first few or the last few. You usually get a better price on those ones.
Right.
And then you have nice high-end stuff, and then you go in and you furnish them fully. Is that correct?
Right. So they're fully furnished and equipped. The idea is that you just have to bring luggage and food. So
nice. And then, okay, so you deal with executive corporate rentals, insurance displacements. Do you have some seniors housing as well? Do you do any short-term Airbnb vacation? What's the kind of a breakdown of your portfolio?
Yeah, so I would say pushing 85% of what I do is SuperSuites. That's been, the most successful by far. And you mentioned insurance claims and corporate relocation, but there's also in-betweeners. So if someone's sold a home, their next home isn't completing yet, or they're building a home, it's delayed with supply chain issues, then they'll stay again minimum for 1 month.
Yep.
We're not vacation rental people. We do have people like climate refugees who will come from Alberta, Ontario, Manitoba to maybe spend a month or two over the winters, or maybe they just had a grandkid in the area. So we get like that sort of pleasure stay, if you will. But it's really not like tourists at all.
Okay. So okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm very interested in how you find those people. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But let's just chronologically do that. So you acquire, say, townhomes and condos, new complexes. Right. You then put a furnished package into it. What's a typical furnished package? What does it look like? What does it cost? How, do you have teams that does that? How tell me about the furnished package you put into your suites.
Yeah, so to put it simply, what we've tried a lot of things over the years, but what we do currently is we get all our furniture, if it's in Canada, from the brick. So, you have to know what to buy from the brick, and we get a commercial discount. We have a rep, and we can buy on certain tent sale days and things like that where they have even more leeway. You have options like financing, so you can pay for the furniture out of cash flow if you're willing to defer your cash flow over the first year. Which increases your investor's ROI, lowers their cash required in the deal. It's a nice perk. Unless someone invests with a secured line of credit, then they typically just want to pay for the furniture so they can start their monthly cash flow to service because that's one of the things about investing in SuperSuites is that your monthly owner payments pretty well always will cover your interest that you're incurring on your secured line of credit that you use to invest. So it's like just a great deal that way.
Okay.
Back to the furniture and stuff, though, we also get a thing called a condo in a box. So we order that from Transworld Imports in Richmond, and it's a little bit more expensive than going to like Walmart and Jysk and IKEA and all this and piecing it together, but it's the time value. So it comes on a skid, and it's got all your housewares, your cookwares, your linen, and then all you have to do is go and do your decor, your electronics, these sort of things top up at the HomeSense, Walmarts, and then that's basically what's included in the suite.
Okay, so can you repeat that again? Condo in a box, and this is Lower Mainland. Where do you get it from?
It's called Transworld Imports, and they're like a hospitality company that would also supply hotels and things like that. Okay,
and I would imagine are they Canada-wide? Or?
They will ship, I believe, anywhere, which is another third-party company, right? But we'll often weigh it out like, okay, if we're going to ship to Alberta, are we doing a few units? Maybe.
Yep.
But if it's one, then we'll probably buy locally.
Okay.
But we're trying to have a Coca-Cola consistency of product, whereas if someone stays in a Calgary SuperSuite or a Abbotsford SuperSuite, they're going to get the same experience.
Okay. So essentially you get kind of a condo set up in a box and you have it as an inventory checklist. You send it to someplace else. They have somebody that goes and shops, puts it together, puts it on a skid and delivers it to the home.
Yeah, they I believe they create the duvet covers and everything right there. They sew them there.
Oh, wow.
And then they put it all on a big pallet, pound in a box, and then saran wrap it up and ship it on the courier for you.
Oh,
and
wow.
then they pull up at your townhouse, put it in the garage, and then everyone starts picking at it and putting everything away.
And then who does the setup from there? I would imagine you or your team, or do you hire some labor for a week or two, or who does the setup for you?
It's usually like core team members. It could be my office manager will jump in because she's done 30, 40 of them and just help with the decor, or it's usually like a move-in agent, or maybe our housekeepers are going to jump in and chip in, or a handyman.
Yeah.
So it's case by case.
No, but I would imagine you save a great deal of time because I would imagine a huge portion of the time is the shopping, the selection of all the materials and getting it together and transporting it to the property. I imagine a lot of that gets saved by just using that third-party company. Oh, brilliant.
It's good. Yeah, we've always done that.
And
in the box.
Well, that's the one thing that I think you're brilliant is you're a brilliant business operator. You're a brilliant owner. You're also a very systems detail guy. You're one of the best.
Trained by the best.
Yeah. Oh no, I have nothing to do with training you.
Systems, relationships, and follow through.
Yes, I'm terrible with systems. I'm good at.
A system to me is just a checklist, and getting everybody to use them, including myself, is another thing. But we try.
Nice. Well, that's the only way that you potentially could take a business model as labor intensive as yours and scale it to many markets, scale it to another country, scale it is because you have those processes dialed in. If you had to reinvent the wheel and you had no process, you would have been stuck at, 38 properties a long time ago.
You know what I did, Russ, was I took like all the early RAIN materials, like the due diligence checklist, the property analysis, all that stuff. And then I started customizing it for furnished rentals, right? So I have my due diligence checklist, my completion possession checklist. I put my logo on it, took all the core RAIN points, but then just every time I learned a lesson, I would add it. Something becomes redundant, you take it off.
Wow. So guys, it all comes down to many people were all taught the exact same thing. It's just who executed against it, improved the process, and took it up to the next level, and now owns 150 plus properties, going to another country and on a journey to $1 billion portfolio. So brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so you've got your product set up. Now, where do you find the insurance displacements, the corporate relocations? Like I'm sitting there, someone might be sitting here and listening and going, I have a place in Medicine Hat, right? And this might be perfect to do a furnished suite, or Kelowna, or wherever, right? And they might have a basement suite in their house. I want one of those corporate relocation people in my place. Well, like, where do you find them? Where do you find those people?
So each market's a bit different, right? So if you imagine like a pie, or I like to say, which piers are you fishing from? So we mentioned them. There's the insurance piece, there's the corporate piece, there's the in-betweener, and then there might be special niches like professional sports, healthcare. It depends where your property's situated. Are you close to an airport for pilot training? This kind of thing. But for example, Medicine Hat, I don't really know anything about, but I imagine there'd probably be, like maybe some oil and gas type stuff. Like Calgary corporate oil and gas is a much bigger piece of the pie, corporate in Calgary, whereas Fraser Valley is much more insurance for me.
Okay. Well, let's take the Fraser Valley, which you're very familiar with. So insurance displacement claims. So do I just phone up my insurance broker and just say, who do I talk to about talking about offering a suite? Like, what would you do?
Here's the map that I'm aware of is you have to work your way up the ladder, right? So first, how it happened for me was the insured, they call them, the client that's had the flood. They find me on Craigslist, Kijiji, whatever it was back in the day. They say, hey, I've had this, like, could I rent your place and furnish it? Light bulb, goes on. It's like, that's kind of how you get in. And then you might get introduced to an insurance adjuster. Well, anytime I ever met an insurance adjuster, I've carefully saved them in my database, right? So when I go into a new area, I'll do one email blast to all my insurance adjusters, which I've got like hundreds and hundreds of like legit working producers that I'll send it to, and just build your database, right? But the challenge that mom and pop operators, which I consider myself one, have is that if you just have 1 or 2 or 6 or even 10 properties, these insurance adjusters are so busy that they want to deal with a bit bigger operation, because they don't want to like reach out to you and you say, oh, sorry, I'm booked again. If you turn them down, like, back to back, they're not calling you anymore. So it's tough to get over that hurdle of it took me 10 years to get over. But you can also work with the bigger companies, like the SuperSuites. Well, we don't do it like this, but a High Street or a Premier Suites, you could kind of work with them, make your inventory available in their program, or so they know they can overflow to you, and maybe they rent off you for $3,000 a month and they mark it up to $5,000 a month. So maybe you can be the little fish on the whale that way and get exposed to relocation agents and insurance adjusters, or else you just market yourself and try to get lucky and build a relationship. It's all relationships, right? Just with one insurance adjuster, like 80% of my business comes from 20% of the insurance adjusters. So you just need a few key relationships. I'll get a text, Surrey ? Yes. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Like they're tucked in that night.
Oh man, hang on. Woo-wee, brother.
Drop it.
Hang on. Oh, where's the fire? How about a bomb? Oh, there we go. Dropping the mic. Hang on here. What happened to the fire? There it is.
And then back to where you find these people. It's online.
Yep.
It's, pay ads on Google. It's boots on the ground. Like when I'm suffering vacancy, I will physically drive around to the business parks and go right past the no soliciting signs and just, ask for human resources, compliment them, bring some little donuts, and you just got to do direct marketing.
Yeah.
We'll pass. I've passed Sandman at the door at the airport doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's guerrilla marketing is really what it is. Yeah. You're just whatever it takes. And quite honestly, gang, if you're sitting there and you have maybe a unit or two, if you keep scanning the newspaper articles, any big job announcements, any new companies coming into town.
Google top employers.
Yeah, all the companies that are hiring, all those kind of things, and just have the conversations. And honest to goodness, all you need is, like Derek said, you need a few really good. And then what you do for those insurance adjusters and corporate relocators is you make it easy for them. You make their job easy. They send you a text, Surrey ? Derek sends back, I've got 4. What do you want?
Here's the thing, Russ, in this business is that it's all the details, because the person, maybe they lost a pet, maybe they lost all their personal belongings. They are stressed to the max, right? And now you're going to give them the white glove, and they know that when they hand them off to you, they're not going to be calling the adjuster every day saying, when is my home ready? This place is horrible. The landlord's not responding. Everything's not working over here. Oftentimes they're going to like the SuperSuite so much because it's in a resort style community or it's a penthouse, or that they're going to be like, okay, well, take as long as you need on the repairs. And then it makes the adjuster's life easy.
Yep.
And another little thing to point out is that when you get into that level, you have to be willing to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 months to get paid rent. And that's why you can charge the big bucks. It's because there's kind of a finance component in there. And we also offer insurance claims 7 days notice to end, as opposed to everyone else is 14. So it's minimum 1 month, and then insurance claims can give 7 days notice. So they pay for the flexibility, right?
Right. Okay. So did I hear correctly that you potentially could be carrying expenses for a property for 5, 6, 7 months before you get paid?
It can be killer. Yeah.
Wow. However, there is at the end of the day, you're sitting there going, well, I'm not doing this for charity. At the same time, you are getting a premium because of that. Now, Well,
the longer they take, the higher you quote them next time.
Right. Makes sense. But what is the premium typically? So, for example, let's just take one of the places quite clearly out in the valley. What would something like that be a straight rental for? And what are you getting for a SuperSuite for it?
The spreads in the last 2 years have just decoupled like crazy because of the rent controls on traditional rents. And the fact that in the short-term rental business, your most expensive suite is your last suite, similar to the hotels. So if you have one or two, you have to have some rate integrity. But right now, for example, we're breaking a lot of records where we're getting like $215, $225 a night for a townhouse for minimum 1 month. And that same property on the pro forma, maybe I used $165 or something a couple of years ago. So it could be almost 3 times more rent right now if you nail the market like that, right? But you also are going to have a lot more vacancy.
Right.
And you got to make hay while the sun shines and sock it away for the next 2-month vacant stint.
Well, I would imagine you have to have very tight controls on the cash flow as well of what's coming in, what's going out, because some people might not be able to absorb a few months of not having things in there. But are you telling me in some cases that if you're getting say $2,000 a month as a straight long-term rental, you potentially can get up to like $6,000 a month as a furnished suite?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's at the top of the delivery chain. That's like all the details. That's like 2 weeks worth of initial toiletries and disposables and all the details buttoned up.
Yep.
If you're kind of like, the plates don't match and it's kind of all included, but not this or that, then you're making your way down that rate premium scale. Understood.
So, okay. So there is some reward to the risk of doing this on. And guys, I'm always mindful when I'm talking to somebody with 15 plus years experience and hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes and challenges. And I don't see too many gray hairs there yet, Derek. You're doing something right, I guess. Maybe, getting a little bald on top there.
Maybe.
But I always have to be just very mindful that it's a process. It's an evolution. Derek learned a lot of these things by just doing it. And really, you were a pioneer in a lot of this. There was no one really to teach you any of this, was there, Derek?
Well, I wouldn't say that. No,
there was a few, but there wasn't like every Tom, Dick, and Harry is teaching a training course on buying a rental property. But to do furnished suites, there wasn't a lot. You know
what? My special addition to the leaves on the knowledge tree or whatever, I think that was unique from what I found is that all the other operators basically take on people's properties and inventory and they manage it. They do a 60-40 split. They charge fees and things before the split, but they don't share in the ownership. Whereas because my experience through right from the beginning, joint ventures, I own everything, right? So that's the key difference is that maybe these companies have done really well on cash flow all these years, but I guarantee they wish they owned a lot of this stuff. And there's a lot of benefits to being the landlord direct. So when something breaks, I'm like, fix it.
Got it.
Things like that.
Okay. Now, you and I, Derek, could talk endlessly on the... Oh, go ahead, please.
I wanted to give credit. Sorry, Russ.
Yes.
Back to the question. I wanted to give credit to where I got this idea from because it wasn't an original idea by any means. So Catherine Brooker, a RE/MAX agent from Calgary, came out to Coquitlam, I believe it was, when we had quarterly meetings at Rain back in the day, and told us about how she was doing this on houses in Calgary for oil and gas executives. And I had this chance encounter in Abbotsford with a solution staffing company who I still work with today. And then the idea was kind of hatched. But even the term SuperSuites was something I would read in the Rain materials, like in case studies and stuff. Fort McMurray specifically, it was a term that was used for fully serviced and equipped suites. And I started referring to our stuff as SuperSuites, just in our ads and stuff. And then eventually I got the light bulb to check if it was a trademarked thing, and it wasn't. So I trademarked an existing term in the marketplace.
Nice. Well, and just as an FYI, Derek, when I was doing some research looking on, I think SuperSuites.com is available for sale. Now, I don't know how much it is or the price of it or any of that kind of stuff, but if you
do.
Okay, I wouldn't doubt it. Well, you have
too much.
You have SuperSuites.ca.
We just went with SuperSuitesUSA.com because those dirty dogs didn't want to make a deal.
Oh, really? How much, if you don't mind me asking, how much were they asking?
They weren't even responding to our offers, so we weren't coming to an agreement.
Nah, I understand. Now, just as an FYI, Derek, for you, I think, I'm not trying to correct you or anything. I just want to credit where credit's due. Catherine Brooker, I believe, is from Edmonton.
Oh,
and originally the SuperSuites concept, I believe, was Tim Johnson originally created something for his Fort McMurray properties. And honestly, all it was just a flyer and one little checklist of a document that RAIN members had access to. And a few people took it. Catherine took it to the next level. And then you've taken that and pioneered it even to another level above.
That is so cool to learn that after all these years, that's where it came from. That is like some meant to be stuff.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing is I could be wrong, but I believe that was the origin of all that. But here's the thing is, guys, you don't have to have a completely raw, unique idea. What you can potentially do is take something that somebody has already done and do what Derek has done and just systematized it, put a process in place, and then grow and scale it. Okay, so perfect. Now, here's the thing is, I was just going to say is Derek and I can talk to the cows come home on furnished rentals, executive rentals, corporate housing, kind of that middle tier, what I would call between short-term and long-term. Now, we could go on and on, but I do want to keep this under 17 hours today. But here's what I want to do. I want to ask, and here's the ask of everybody, if you're watching or listening to this, would you like some more detailed training materials on corporate rentals, furnished suites, executive rentals, the stuff that we're talking here? If you like more detailed training on that, leave a comment, drop me an email note and say that you'd be interested in that. And then Derek and I can, if there's enough interest, we'll put together some materials and we'll keep the conversation going. Okay, gang? So if it's of interest, let her know. Are you down for that, Derek?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about your pivot going down into the US, down into Texas, into the Dallas, Texas corridor. What, I imagine there's 1,001 hurdles you've had to jump over, but give me an example of what you're buying down there, what you're seeing, what are the preliminary numbers and what you're doing down there.
Yeah, I love this. My favorite topic, like you, it's like when we get super interested in something, I'm just a sponge and I've just been taking the fire hose of knowledge for that area probably for a year and a half or something now, at least maybe going on 2 years. So I follow all the local podcasts and kind of got my ear to the street with the local real estate clubs and stuff, just kind of learning the climate. And essentially they were just kind of, a quarter behind us in our market cycle. So I was able to go in initially and just, reached out to a realtor that I liked on YouTube. First for a home for myself, which is kind of what he specialized in, high-end, detached homes. But he's been helping me now with townhouses and condos. And the first deal that we did was actually a pre-sale in a place called Northline. And this is kind of like, so if you have Austin, the growth corridor is kind of like north-south, of course, east-west as well, but the lion's share, like how the Fraser Valley, the path of progress is to the east in general. The lion's share of the growth in Austin is to the north. So places like Leander, Georgetown, Liberty Hill, these are kind of like the Surreys, the Langleys, the Abbotsfords, just outside of the core. And this North Line is going to be the new core outside the core. So the other place I've seen this term is Seaton and Calgary in the southeast, where it's just like a new core out in the suburbs where they're connecting with light rail to downtown and just a lot of density and a desirable live, work, play type lifestyle. But long story short, it's an award-winning developer, Novak Brothers, local builder. And we were able to check out their previous project, which we wound up buying units in. But the first deal that we did was a 3,600 square feet of living space, approximately, a townhouse. It's a 3-bed and a flex, I believe. It's got a huge rooftop terrace. And we paid $750,000 US for it. And here's the cool thing, is that we put down, I believe, $20,000 US as our, what they call the earnest deposit. And now we just wait for construction, which is next year. It'll be completed, probably Q2 or so. They're saying Q1, but I'm expecting kind of Q2. So bought that one unit. We knew that the developer was doing structured price increases. They went all the way up for the comparable unit. They were asking 900. I just asked my realtor today to get a checkup because I suspect it's probably back down to 850 or less with this little correction that's happened over the last few months. But still, we had an opportunity in that. Remember how I said they were a quarter behind us? I saw the market already cooling here. They thought they were at the end, but I was like, this is still very affordable because Langley was like 1.2 million for a townhouse half the size and half the quality. Even after conversion of currency, it was just crazy price per square foot difference. But that's our first deal. So that's a townhouse under construction. I didn't buy more because they were already asking more for the other units. So I just got in with that one at 750. There's no transfer tax on it. There's no GST. You can literally budget like 1% to 2% tops for closing costs. So when you buy a new property for 750 here, it works out to almost 800,000 with the taxes, right? And we don't get a GST rebate, none of that. It's crazy. It's so refreshing. And without the taxes, there's no state income tax. Did you have something there?
No. I was just, I'm sitting here. I'm trying to keep track. Is a 3,600 square foot townhome and 750,000. Some people say, well, that might be high. No, that's not high. Right?
No.
We're in our area around here. You can't even get a shoebox condo for something like that. And you tied it up for $20,000 down payment.
Exactly. And we made on paper, over 100. So it's just a really good start for our new SuperSuites limited partnership too. I call it SuperSuites, or I call it SSLP2 seed. So we plant these seeds. And then what I do is I partner up with my investors at my original price and terms. So it's built-in equity when they sign on, essentially. The second deal, because I like that building so much, we looked at Novak Brothers' previous project that they just completed nearby in Georgetown, which has been getting a lot of press. Like, these are top growth areas for population in the USA for towns over 50,000. Like, these are in the top 3. So 10 years ago, there were like 10,000 people there. Now there's like 80,000 people. So it's really, really booming. But we went to Georgetown to what they call brownstones at the summit. Our other project is brownstones at Northline. We now found out that 10, 15 minutes away, what we just paid $750 pre-sale, resale sellers were selling the exact same floor plans, like 5 years old, beautiful properties for like $643 is what we paid for the next one there. So I said, they haven't gotten the memo that 15 minutes away in Leander, they're selling the same thing for $750. So this is same rents essentially, $643. And I don't usually buy resale, but in this case, we scooped that one up, and we also scooped up another one in there.
Wow.
That we paid $685 for.
But you're taking your model that you've perfected here, and you're taking that exact same model down to Texas, are you not?
Exactly. And there's going to be lots to learn, and which piers to fish off. But we did rent to our first tenant, and it was kind of fun. It was a corporate relocation for the biggest bowling chain in the world. It's called Bolero. Okay. And it's like one of these destination, bowling alleys that's just like a wonder park for kids. They do everything so big down there. But they brought in a new manager, and they actually are paying $64.50 US for that property that I paid $643 for. No tax.
So they're paying $64.50 US per month.
8,200 or something Canadian.
Holy moly!
That's a record. That's a record for anywhere for yield
for a place that you paid $650 and change, give or take.
Yeah, yeah. And we furnished it, beautifully on the rich side, probably $25,000 and that kind of thing. Upgraded a few pieces because it was resale, new mirrors and stuff. Yep. It's got a private elevator, Russ.
Oh, geez. Now. So would condo fees be extremely high? Like, what kind of let's just say that's a typical month. That's a month. It's going to be vacant some months, not, or whatever. Yeah. What kind of cash flow does that see on a monthly basis if you're getting those kind of numbers? And I know there's lots of variables. There's financing costs and stuff like that. But I imagine you would have had to have created a pro forma for something like that.
Right. So here's something for you. And I've seen the same kind of product in Edmonton, but it's essentially a freehold or fee simple townhouse. So we have shared walls, but if our roof needs replacing, it's on us, windows on us. So the HOA fee really just governs like uniformity, which I like, because in Edmonton, we've got shaggy lawn here, short lawn here, shaggy lawn here, stuff in the yard here. So the HOA manages tightly, but the HOA fee is like $50.
And it's still fairly new. Would you say it's been 5 years? It's only 5 years old.
This is a weird thing I've never seen, but let's say this complex is like 100 units.
Yeah.
They built it over like 8 years. So it's like this building, they probably built it on cash flow, I imagine. So this one is like, 8 years old. So is this one, these two are like this years old. So
yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine you're looking at these as these aren't going to be forever hold properties. You're going to hang on to it until before some of the things need to be replaced. The roofs, the windows, the stuff that once the deferred maintenance starts kicking in is a good time to take the asset, cull that one from the portfolio and get another new one.
I just came up with this recently that like dog years. So in SuperSuite years for real estate, like 1 year equals 3 or 4.
Got it.
So it's kind of musical chairs in a lot of these things, right? Yep. So like once the shine comes off and the warranties come off, I like to purge it out unless it's a real like strong earner or compelling reason to continue holding. You just wait for that real seller's market and get it fairly close, and then you purge out the ones that are like 5 to 10 years old.
Nice. So you've bought your first, did I hear correctly, you bought your first 3 or 4 so far, or where are you at?
So we bought the one in North Line,
yep,
off Novak Brothers for $750. We bought the second one for $643. We bought the third one for $685. They're all essentially the same floor plan. Yep. And then I have my own custom home that we're really excited about under construction in Santa Rita Ranch.
Oh, and you're moving down there, aren't you?
I'm going to be spending probably like at least half the year down there. I imagine like 6 to 9 months a year down there and back up here for summer and boating.
Wow. So, and then you also have a target of, you want to acquire 50, don't you? 50 units. In what kind of a time frame, Derek?
That's for SuperSuites LP2. Yep. And like we've got, I guess, 3 in that so far, and yep, we're writing offer on actually another one at the Brownstones. I think I got it accepted today, and it doesn't have the rooftop terrace and no private elevator, but 618.
Wow! Oh, hang on,
and a whole different environment. Like I just said, no, just this much, Ernest.
Yeah,
I want 10 business days for subjects. I want 60 days from then for completion. Yep. So October 5th, it's just back to the good old buying.
Or you could actually get terms with things and actually negotiate and stuff. So did you say correctly that you just got an offer accepted? Was it today or recently?
We're like right there.
Okay.
We've agreed on everything. I'm getting it partially furnished too.
Okay.
But they just wanted me to increase my earnest money. Yeah. And I said, you know what? Just let me know if you want to take it or leave it, because my appetite, I'm pretty busy. So I suspect they'll take it.
Right. Well, an early congratulations with a bomb, right? Well, that's awesome, Derek. So, and you and I, like I said, we've been talking an awful lot about this project. And one of the reasons why I'm putting my name behind this project, and I'm very excited about this, is I want to be part of this as well, is because of just Derek's business model, Derek's character as a person. And I think there's an incredible opportunity. You've taken something that not everybody can do. You have to have a very specialized, unique knowledge, operation ability, a level of execution that not everybody can do. And you're making it available for people that if they just want to invest into it and not have to do the work, right?
Great. Yeah, we buy the farm for what it yields, not just for what it might be worth one day. So, SuperSuites LP1 was very successful, paid dividends regularly. We're surpassing the pro forma. We're 3 years into like a 7-year limited partnership. So it's nice to do the cookie cutter thing, the repeatability, you get good at it, and we can show everyone coming into LP2, here's what actually is occurring in LP1.
Nice. Now we could go on and on about the opportunity here, but what I'm going to do here, and we're going to wrap up here soon, but I want to put it out to anybody who is listening or watching this, that if you'd like to be part of maybe this project that Derek is putting together, and I'm part of it as well. I'm putting my name behind this as well, but not as much as not to the extent that Derek is Derek's the guy here that's taking the bull by the horns. If you'd like to be part of it, let me know. So there will be some contact information in the show notes or on the description below. If you're interested, book a time to have a conversation with me. This is not for everybody. You need to be an accredited investor. You need to have, a significant a portion of financial well-being. And if you are interested in getting involved in stuff, we can get together and I'll connect the dots. And maybe Derek and I'll have a webinar or two for just people that are just interested. Or maybe, Derek, maybe we can get together and have like a wine and cheese social or something.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. And, I'm happy just to give back and try to help pass the torch and educate. One thing about LP2 that is maybe a good thing to mention is that it's 100% Canadian investors.
Okay.
And we've taken the extra steps to make it easy so that they don't have to worry about any U.S. tax implications. We basically look after all that on the corporate side, and they just file their Canadian normal tax returns.
Got it. Now, Derek, what would be your best summary if you're say why somebody would want to invest in these Texas property versus maybe a British Columbia, Fraser Valley property as well? Now, don't get me wrong, you live out that way and you wish that the numbers and everything made sense because you just keep acquiring more, but why the pivot?
I think there's a lot of reasons, like the whole even macro trend of the migration to the Sun Belts, similar to what occurred to the West Coast. It's just growth, right? It's the 12 fundamentals. It's these kind of job announcements and stuff, and just the people that are moving to the area, supply and demand, everything that I've learned at Rain and everything in my gut and my experience tells me that the next 6 to 10 years will be a good time to, with the odd buying window, will be a great run.
Well, and
similar to the Fraser Valley.
Absolutely. So you've taken what you've seen in another market and you're recognizing in a new market exactly what you've already have seen, and you want to get in at the bottom of the wave as opposed to the top of the wave.
I think I have a competitive edge down there in that I have a lot of mixed use multifamily experience, whereas it's a very relatively new thing down there. These new master plan communities, like one I should mention is called Leander Springs. And they just do these massive, amazing, it's a 4-acre man-made lagoon, crystal clear lagoon with retail and commercial. But I imagine that I'll probably be the only show in town that has 4 units here, 2 units here, because they're much more like, okay, it's a whole building for rental. But I kind of know the ins and outs of how to operate, and also put my name on the condo boards and the HOA boards and be a good actor in the community.
Yep.
Because we do operate in so many buildings in so many provinces.
Yep.
Like I've already spoken personally to the HOA president as I purchased these units. They know what we do.
No, 100%. And Derek has, you've prepared, and now brother, this is some of the best work I've seen with some of these slides and an entire package and presentation deck and things like that. Now guys, if you want, Derek and I can take the time, maybe another call or on a webinar if you're interested, and we'll actually present this to the people that are interested in this as well. But you've done case study after case study, fundamental after fundamental, and you know what, Derek? At the end of the day, the black and white numbers make sense too. And that's one of the best reasons.
This is not a sales pitch, but I think something that anybody should be proud of, is your track record. And I'm really want to keep my record of never having lost an investor's money. So, I'm very cautious not to oversupply. That's why we now do 2 townhouses here, 4 here. I've learned from oversupply, and I like to say, I picked this up last week, our capital is coward.
Nice. It's courageous and coward, right? all at the same time. Yeah. Now, gang, if you are interested, Derek, would a good place for somebody to check out things. So you have a website that's just been created. And again, brother, this is some amazing work. SuperSuites.
Shout out to Jeremy at Kamloops Marketing. He did those slides. He did this. He's amazing.
Yeah. So SuperSuitesUSA.com is a place to go check that out as well. So guys, just one more time, if you are interested in doing this, send me an email. Start with me. Send me your questions. Send me an email of that you'd be interested, and then maybe Derek and I can put on a separate webinar. Or if there's a few of you, like I don't expect there's going to be hundreds. I'd love to be hundreds, but we want to keep this tight. Half a dozen to a dozen people would be great. And it's not for everybody, but if it is for you, I think you're going to be very, very happy with your opportunity here as well. So good. What's the best place for somebody to get a hold of you, Derek, if they want to reach out to you and send you a thank you card or something that you've touched and inspired them?
Yeah, that's great. I've had a few people come out of the woodwork in the last few months that are now working with me, and one's even relocating from Red Deer out here to be my right-hand man. So you never know who you're going to connect with that feels compelled to reach out. But I would say just Google Derek Peever. To be honest, email is a great way to at least like schedule a call, because my phone just blows up 24/7. You're not going to get me just on a random call. But social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Yep. Awesome. And I want to do one final thing here for you, Derek. Two things. Number one is I wanted to just acknowledge. I always like to acknowledge the person that I'm having a conversation with, of how you've grown, like how you show up from that fellow with the sneakers and the
alligators
that you would come in and you were the best way I would describe you is you were a sponge. Like you were a sponge of knowledge. You would just soak everything in, everything as much as you possibly can. And now you're the tap. Right? A sponge soaks in the water from the tap. Now, Derek, you've become the tap where you're pouring into other sponges across this country. And that doesn't come by accident, and that doesn't come overnight. That comes from a lot of hard work. That comes from a lot of relentless pursuit of excellence. And I just wanted to acknowledge how amazing you are as an investor, a person, and the father you're becoming. That's all at the same time.
Thank you so much, Russ. That's it means a lot coming from you. You know that.
Yeah.
When I had completely run out of cash, ideas, and that's when I started reading the joint venture secrets and doing the acres, and that's when really I turned it into a business, or else I'd still be on the tugboats today.
Yep.
Listening to your CDs about handling objections. Like I remember Carson and I driving over to investors' houses after work one evening, sit down for 2 hours, talk them into the deal, talk them out of the deal. And getting nowhere, having great deals, but we just worked through it with your materials and got the mindset and then broke through the barriers.
Awesome. Well, that deserves some fire here, my brother. And where there's fire, there's always a bomb shortly after. Thank you, Derek. Thank you for that ending inspiring words. And I think we'll leave it there, guys. Let's put it this way. I know when we recorded the first one, we talked about that there would be multiple ones to come. This is the next one in the series. And Derek, I'm looking very much forward to collaborating alongside you on a few of your projects going forward. So gang, one final time, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about some of the things we've talked about, drop us an email, reach out to myself through the show notes below. There'll be a link, or in the description below. And with all that being said, Derek, have yourself a wonderful day, my friend. Hey, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you are interested in moving forward with velocity, if you're interested in being a successful real estate investor, only 2 simple next steps from here. Number 1, below where you're watching this, there will be an opportunity for you to subscribe. And over here will be a hand-selected video for you to keep moving forward. Continue your journey forward. Just click on over here for that hand-selected video for you, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you very much.